hop. We went up, took a little jaunt away, about 100 meters or so away from the launch pad, used that Raptor engine to fly and actually land. And actually, this hopper is actually down at Starbase now.
Yeah, I love this shot. It's just so fun to see it fly. After a series of 150-meter hop tests with earlier prototypes, the Starship program saw a major breakthrough during a test flight of the vehicle known as serial number 8, or SN8. You can see it there on your screen now. In December 2020, SN8 demonstrated a first-of-its-kind controlled aerodynamic descent and landing flip maneuver. Two words,
1, 2, 3,
belly
probando el
flop.
audio.
The SN8 prototype
Estamos
boasted
de
an
nuevo
altitude of 12.5
la segunda
kilometers or 7.8 miles.
oportunidad a ver si hoy sale en 15 minutos
during
la
its
primera
descent.
prueba
While
completa
it
del
didn't stick
Starship.
the landing, the test was a major milestone in the development of Starship. In fact, we should be able to see that unfortunately failed landing. Boom. It was fun to watch, though.
Rapid unscheduled disassembly, but learned a lot of data. Now, the testing continued on to prototype serial number 9. It took a 10-kilometer flight. That's about 6.2 miles up in February of 2021. We had a nominal ascent. We executed the engine cutoffs once we got to the top of the altitude window. We did that belly flop maneuver, which is so much more fun to say than controlled descent, aerodynamic maneuver. That was all stable, but unfortunately, we had a dramatic end on this flight as well. We had a failure on one of the engines that resulted in another pretty large fireball. But what was really cool about both of those flights was how much we learned just between serial numbers 8 and 9 and how quickly we were able to achieve our primary objectives in those two flights. In addition to that, we got so much data that demonstrated control of the vehicle in that subsonic regime.
Ultimately, we performed 9 Starship high-altitude test flights in total. And then, as you see on your screen there, in May of 2021, SN15 launched from Starbase, reached an altitude of about 10 kilometers, performed a number of maneuvers, and safely returned to the launch site. This was the first Starship prototype to fly, control its descent, safely land, and be recovered in one piece.
And people were cheering like crazy
I was
after
one of
that
them.
test flight. Now, having achieved those successes in our suborbital campaign, one of the next big challenges is for the upper stage when it comes to reusability and surviving the hypersonic, really high heating phase of entry. Combined with the later ability to refill Starship's tank with propellants, the fuel and oxygen, while we're on orbit, that will enable us to have a fully reusable transportation system that's designed to carry both crew and cargo on long duration missions, interplanetary flights, and will help humanity get to the moon, travel to Mars, and beyond in our solar system.
This is all just basically our path of progress, basically an iteration on each vehicle. And that iterative process is a core part of how we work here at SpaceX. We like to test early and often, publicly as well in our case, and that's both for hardware and software. And while it doesn't always go as expected, we learn so much from it, and it informs our next attempt.
Yeah, we learn a lot from actually putting the vehicle through flight-like tests. Even the test on Monday gave us an opportunity to learn more about the vehicle into today's launch attempt, and so far things are looking really good. Now, we are continuing into our countdown. We're about T-minus 12 minutes to go. I think it's a perfect time for another check-in with John Insparker. How's it going, John?
Well, Shiva, the good news is that the nets are quiet. The teams are currently working. No significant launch vehicle issues. You can see the T clock there on your screen, T-minus 12 minutes, 10 seconds, and counting. Propellant loading is continuing on both the Super Heavy and the ship stages. You can see the graphic on the left-hand side of the screen. Most recently, we began loading liquid oxygen and liquid methane fuel into the header tanks on Starship. Those are 2 small tanks just underneath the nose of the second stage. Now that started at T-minus 27 minutes. That'll be wrapping up at about T-minus 9 minutes. Now the Starship second stage main fuel and LOX tanks are loaded for flight right now. The Super Heavy first stage booster propellant loading is continuing, and that'll go till about T-minus 3 minutes. We're underway with engine chill as we get ready for T0. And we're also configuring the launch pad for liftoff. The booster hold downs have been unlatched. They'll be ready to retract at liftoff. And the second stage quick disconnect is beginning its configuration for release. The methane and liquid oxygen propellants currently going
11 minutos para el lanzamiento. Todo parece ir bien. Perfecto. Si no es que lo cancelan por algo. Alguna válvula como la otra vez.
Heard any reports of boats in the safety perimeter as the launch vehicle heads out over the Gulf of Mexico. So right now, T-minus 10 minutes, 40 seconds and counting. Everything continues to go well for an on-time launch.
Now, today's test flight is taking place out of our Starbase facility in South Texas, and that test site has gone through.
Quiero mostrar algo aquí en la trayectoria. Esta es la trayectoria que va a tener, como ustedes pueden ver. Va a pasar por República Dominicana. Es de día, no se va a ver, ¿verdad? La propulsión de los motores, como fue las otras noches, que pasó un cohete. Y como es de día no se va a ver. Pero va a pasar Puerto Rico, República Dominicana, Cuba, por ese espacio aéreo. Claro, está a alta altitud.
Has 5 boosters and 8 Starships going. So it's incredible. And it's important to have that system fill in basically the manufacturing line so that we have product ready to go as soon as we're done with this test.
Yeah, exactly. And ultimately, I mean, we talked about how Starship is an order of magnitude more payload to orbit. But if you're going to go set up a base on the moon or Mars, you're going to need thousands of metric.
Cuando estemos a punto del despegue, yo voy a quitar mi cara de ahí con esta imagen de una webcam que estoy probando realmente, que me la quieren vender, pero mejor voy a pedir, o mejor dicho, está pedido una de mejor calidad, un poquito mejor, porque esta tiene una calidad demasiado baja. Yo espero que la próxima esté mejor. Bueno, ahí están los turistas por montones. El cohete más grande, más alto de la historia, Starship de SpaceX de Elon Musk.
Lifts off from the pad. We've actually got a great shot here of the natural surroundings around the pad. Oddly enough, most of the pads end up being around sort of wild locations like this. But coming up on T-minus 8 minutes, I think it's another good time for check-in with John.
Thank you, Shiva. T-minus just over 8 minutes to the first test flight of Starship. Currently, we are pressurizing second stage. We are also closing out liquid oxygen and fuel header loads on the second stage. We're also getting ready for propellant load tank pressurization on the first stage. In fact, we are just now closing out header tank load on the second stage. Now, with the header tanks loaded and closed out, that means we're down to just the first stage to finish loading. That'll finish about T-minus 3 minutes. And at that point, when both stages are loaded, we will have the 10 million pounds of liquid propellant on board. Now, in the next few minutes, the guidance system will begin its final alignment for flight during a quiet period when the rocket's not doing anything. The automated flight termination system will be armed, and a final TVC checkout will be performed. Those are the engine wiggles, and hopefully we'll be able to see that with the cameras underneath the vehicle and maybe even the second stage engines. And there's a view looking underneath the super heavy first stage with the 33 Raptor engines. Now, a reminder as we continue counting down, if we do need to hold, the point where we hold the clock would be at T-minus 40 seconds. We can pause there. Typically in the
Bueno, señores, muy excitante esto, señores. La verdad que, ¿cómo estarán ellos, ese ingeniero, si uno simplemente está mirando? ¿Cómo estarán esos ingenieros que tienen años trabajando en ese proyecto? Ya, esta cámara es mala, tiene un retraso entre la voz o sea, la imagen y el sonido.
It's pretty different than what we do, or what we're attempting to do today. We're actually going to be igniting those 33 engines in banks or clusters, and that sequence starts at T-6 seconds.
Miren eso, son 36, me parece, 36 motores que tiene. Todo eso al mismo tiempo. Es una fuerza increíble.
That kicks off that green characteristic spark on Falcon 9 missions. But actually on Starship, we use electrical ignition systems. Many of those are integrated on the ground system here. And the electrical ignition, we start lighting the banks at T-6 seconds. And then over the next 4 seconds, the 3 sets of banks will ignite and eventually bring the booster up to a thrust to weight greater than 1 and hopefully ascent.
Super exciting. Like we said, pretty different from
A 5 minutos, señores, como dicen, a ley de 5 minutos. Les recordamos la trayectoria. 5 minutos, señores. Fíjense, trayectoria pasará encima de Cuba, República Dominicana, Puerto Rico. Muy excitante. Todo el mundo contento.
The future builds of Starship. If we lift off and clear the pad, we're calling that a win.
A great shot of the pad there. A great shot of the quick disconnect on the second.
Yo muy atento también a los tweets de Elon y de SpaceX. Dice que todo va bien. Parece que sí vamos a tener, o vuela o explota, el asunto es que parece que hoy sí. 4 minutos, señores, y contando. No se ha detenido el conteo.
Yeah. We're just now under 4 minutes until liftoff of the Starship flight test. We've been following along for what honestly seems like days and days now, but really it kind of comes down to years. It has been a long time to get to where we are today. Now, fast forwarding a little bit, we have the opportunity to hold, if necessary, at 40 seconds, and we are able to hold there for about 15 minutes, or up to 15 minutes, and still be able to lift off.
Yeah, and that's a little bit different from Falcon for the propellant sequence on Falcon that we don't have the opportunity to hold. So that's a cool new capability on Starship.
Yep. Right now, T-minus 3 minutes, 10 seconds and counting. We got some
3 minutos, señores. Esto está por partir. Casi mente está volando.
closeout of propellant loading on the first stage. That should be wrapping up here shortly. In fact, it looks like fuel fill and drain valves are coming closed. That means first stage is fully loaded, second stage fully loaded, and that 10 million pounds of propellant on board.
Están indicando que todo el cohete está cargado, la parte superior e inferior. Está todo listo para despegue.
As we get into the plus count, but right now, next activity is coming up. The flight termination system arms at T-minus 2 minutes. Thrust vector control checkouts at T-minus 2 minutes.
Ahora van a activar el sistema de terminación de vuelo, que es básicamente un explosivo que se le coloca a la nave por si algo sale mal cuando despega, explotarlo en el aire y que no vaya a caer en la población. O sea que eso es cuando va a volar, que activan ese sistema. Un explosivo que solamente se va a usar cuando si hay algún problema. Que se oiga.
Love this view. These are the 33 Raptor engines at the base of the Super Heavy booster. I think we can see those wiggles now.
Miren cómo se mueve eso.
We're currently inside
Probando.
90 seconds. Next major activity, T
La
minus
movilidad
40
ya es
seconds.
1 minuto y medio, menos de 1 minuto y medio. Si no paran, porque a veces paran a 1 minuto, 30 segundos para algún chequeo último rutinario, pero eso es ya 1 minuto. Está volando casi mente.
Next, we'll see as we get past T minus 40 seconds for final checks of the vehicle.
¡30 segundos! Sí, sí, señor. Tenemos despegue casi mente. Recordemos la trayectoria. O sea que si explota pasando cerca de República Dominicana tendremos algún pedacito de recuerdo. Esperemos que no, esperemos que todo sea. La trayectoria final como Hawái me parece. Esa es la trayectoria final, Hawái. Ah, pararon.
Give us a minute to listen into the nets and we'll see if we can get you more information to share.
Ahora. Pararon. Vamos a ver. Espera. Pararon el conteo. Como 20 segundos faltaban. Bueno, la buena noticia, como dice ahí, es que, como dije, pararon faltando unos segundos, pero para unos chequeos, diríamos, dicen, rutinarios, diríamos, unos chequeos finales. O sea, que no es que han encontrado el clima está bueno, no han encontrado ningún problema, sino que por precaución, esperemos que siga.
Tank pressurization. Final pressurization was just a little bit long. That's not unusual. We've held at T minus 40 seconds before to pressurize. That appears to have been resolved. At the same time on the second stage, they're working some final purging. We should know very shortly if that is cleared and if we'll continue the countdown.
Everyone, especially that person, is excited to keep going. Like John said, we should know shortly if we are able to continue. But as we mentioned before, we are able to hold up to 15 minutes and still be able to lift off today.
Yeah, on Falcon 9, it's a little bit different. Once we start propellant loading, we pretty much have to go at the targeted time. Otherwise, the propellants can warm up and we may not have the performance for that particular mission profile. It's a little bit different on Starship.
Folks, if I can interrupt,
yeah,
it looks like they're clearing all the flags and we're going to release at T minus 40 seconds.
That is amazing news.
Amazing.
Team working quickly through their issues on first and second stages.
Bueno, dicen que van a volver a
I'm sure
contar.
all of the
O
rehearsals
sea, que va a
and
seguir el
simulations that they've
conteo,
been doing
que el
prepared them
despegue
to
va a
evaluate the speed
continuar.
quickly to try to get us in for
40
today's launch
seconds.
test.
40 segundos, me parece, ¿no?
For those of you just joining, we have a refill at the T-minus 40-second mark. The team is resolving one issue with the paint purge on the Stage 2 Raptors. Like John just said,
O sea, que eso va, eso viene, eso viene.
looks like the flight will
Ese vuelo va, parece, no lo detienen
the launch
antes.
countdown any moment now.
And it's worth noting on Starship that once we resume the countdown, it restarts from the 40-second period, and then we keep
Exactly.
going unless another condition pops up. So stick around because Starship could be going here real soon.
Don't walk away, that's for sure. Amazing views here coming to us from Starbase, Texas.
That cheering to close the start again.
Estaban contentos porque volvió el conteo. Ahí me lo pusieron en pantalla. 20 segundos prácticamente. ¡Woo! 19, ay, no. Esto no es apto para cardíacos. 12. Ay, no. ¡Woo!
8,
¡Woo! ¡Wow! ¡Fuimos! ¡Mi madre, qué emocionante esto!
Booster after chamber pressure is nominal.
T+33 seconds into the test flight of the inaugural Starship vehicle. Tower cleared, we're into pitch over. Propulsion reports first stage engines nominal. What a sight from the ground cameras at Starbase. We're flying at twice the thrust of the Saturn V heading to space.
Acquisition of signal, Corpus Christi.
We're throttled down and throttled back up. Going through the period of maximum aerodynamic pressure. As the velocity increases, the density of the atmosphere is decreasing,
Max Q.
lessening stress on the vehicle. The call out, max Q now. Continuing to watch the first stage as we head down range. A 100 seconds into flight. Our next major activity is going to be
Acquisition
shutdown
signal, Houston.
of the first stage. Houston tracking station now acquiring the vehicle. With shutdown, we will get separation of Starship from Super Heavy and ignition of the Starship engines. When Starship separates, we light up 6 engines in a staggered sequence. And if all goes well, those 6 engines will burn for almost 6.5 minutes. Onboard view from Starship. And there's views of the Raptor engines on the second stage as we prepare for stage separation. Now after stage separation, the first stage will flip and begin a boost back maneuver for landing in the Gulf. Continuing to fly, 2 minutes 40 seconds. Let's get ready for main engine cutoff.
Booster engine cutoff.
Beginning the flip for stage separation.
Realizando una maniobra de volteo, de flip, dando la vuelta. Y se va a separar. Vamos, tiene como problema, me parece. Tiene como problema, vamos a ver. Porque está girando. Como que esos giros no debió de hacerlo. Tiene como así. Vamos a ver. porque está girando demasiado. Hay problemas.
As of right now, we are awaiting stage separation.
Vamos. Ha girado como
Our
3
Starship
veces.
should separate from the super heavy booster.
Vamos
Yeah,
a ver.
Kate, right now it looks like we saw the start of the flip, but obviously we're seeing from the ground cameras the entire Starship stack continuing to rotate. We should have had separation by now. Obviously, this is does not appear to be a nominal situation.
Yeah, it does appear to be spinning, but I do wanna
Efectivamente
remind
está,
everyone that
era una sola,
everything
debía de
after
hacer un
clearing the
giro,
tower
pero
was icing on the cake.
explotó. Wow. O lo explotaron. Recuerden el sistema de como quiera, no importa, eso era una prueba. Recuerden el sistema para terminar el vuelo. Eso fue posiblemente lo que hicieron. Al tener un mal funcionamiento, pues lo procedieron a destruir.
Everyone here absolutely pumped to clear the pad and make it this far into the test flight, the first integrated flight of the booster.
Bueno, señores, eso fue todo. Fue una prueba. Por lo menos despegó. Llegó, ven ahí, Elon ahí. No, tal vez no está tan alegre como debería de estar. Pero fue una prueba. Despegó, subió al espacio, comenzó a realizar la maniobra. Debió de dar una vuelta como la dio, pero siguió girando en spin, como dicen en inglés. Pero nada, eso fue todo, señores. Vamos a terminar aquí la transmisión. Van a volver a hacer otra prueba. Eso sí es verdad que nos necesitamos
As we
como
mentioned
como
at the
nunca.
start of today's program, any and
Eso
all
estuvo
the data that we
garantizado.
collected during the test is going to help us
Bueno.
with further development of
Bye bye,
Starship.
yo sé que ya van a terminar la transmisión, yo también.
As SpaceX seeks to
Hasta
make
la
life
próxima.
multiplanetary. It's really worth noting that the flight path was designed